Okay, great. Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. Thanks for waiting. Little technical issue. So today I'll be talking about something quite practical. I'm here to give some advice, maybe instill a little bit of revolutionary optimism and maybe naive optimism. But the title of the talk is Guerilla Interoperability. So we'll talk, of course, about privacy, but I think it is important to actually cover an element, a component to get to privacy for a mass audience that is often maybe too often forgotten and not mentioned. So I'll get right into it. Just FYI, I'm one of the co-founders of Fileverse. We're the ones behind ddocs.new, dsheets.new. We're an alternative to Google Workspace, but end-to-end encrypted and decentralized. So let's get started. The premise of my talk is very much based on this. A good majority of the internet is now filled with what we call hostile architecture. For those of you who don't know, hostile architecture is really what you find in most big cities. It's things on benches in front of stores, in front of banks, that make the life of homeless people, but the general population as well, very difficult and forces them to be out of public sight. So despite those people already living in precarious and difficult conditions, the city makes sure that their life becomes even more hell. And the analogy that I want to make is that a lot of the internet in the open web today is starting to look like it's filled with hostile architecture. So I want to get a little bit into why and how we fight it. So a majority of the internet users today use 2 app stores, 1 of 2 office suites, 1 of 2 mobile OSs, 1 of 3 cloud platforms. And as a result, the technologies comprising the internet, we call the internet, the network called the internet, have come to represent a significant means of control over the creation, access, and dissemination of large volumes of information. Now, okay, this is from Cloudflare, I believe. This is what most of internet traffic and the top domains look like today. So you recognize those names. All those companies are centralized, quasi-monopolies. And the fact that the internet is so much based on those centralized cloud services means that developers are forced to move around their arbitrary rules and obstacles that really make no sense. It forces apps, not just crypto apps, to be really never tapping into their full potential because they are constrained within a walled garden that they have no control over. And it is a process that is very well understood and quite well described as well. You all know Cory Doctorow, I imagine. He calls it the process of enshittification of the internet. I quite like it despite the aggressive terminology, but he describes really 3 stages for those platforms. 1, they are good to their users, they promise the world to them. 2nd, they're starting to be very good to business users, business customers. And 3rd, once all those user groups are locked in and captured, they start to enshittify the internet for everyone else, meaning they log them in, they become as extractive as possible, they remove dev access for those of you that were building on Facebook mini apps, you'll remember what I mean. They jack up fees, they add tracking, ads, etc. The powerful entities that we're describing also use other means. They use DRM, DMCA, and there's been this long-waged war against general-purpose computers and making sure they turn them into appliances that only run authorized code rather than whatever you might want. And these prevent users from modifying, repairing, or innovating upon the systems they own. Of course, this has not gone unnoticed. There are rules, regulations around the world, including the GDPR in Europe, the CCPA in California, that have attempted to constrain those really destructive developments on the internet, but really they pay lip service to data portability and don't actually constrain incumbents that much, which always find ways to circumvent those new regulations. For example, try exporting your data from WhatsApp, TikTok, you end up with an unreadable, huge JSON file, which even if you're technical, good luck making sense of it or using it in your next app. So, why is that related to privacy? I'll get a bit more specific now with my talk. There is a problem that all privacy app developers and builders are very aware of, and it is the fact that, okay, you might be speaking to a room of 100 people that are interested in privacy, but fundamentally, if you separate those people from their social circles, your app will never get the adoption, and the guarantees you're offering people will never get that wide distribution that people deserve. So for those of you who tried to onboard your family to Signal 2 years ago, it was really difficult. Good luck getting them from Viber or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger onto Signal. And you really had to choose between your own privacy and staying with your social circles. So what we want to really do here is we want the value proposition to shift from abandon your friends to get a better private experience with the friends you already have. And this brings me to one of the core points of this talk, which is that one of the most important privacy feature isn't end-to-end encryption, which of course it is a very important feature. It is really the ability to take your friends with you. So how do you do that? You can take a very aggressive way. You can take one that is more that leverages the closed systems you're already using in order to break out users, and we'll go into those. Yeah. Okay, so, 1 second. Okay. Guerilla Interoperability. So I try to write a definition that's not too heavy, so let me read it through. What I mean by guerrilla interoperability is really a user-driven tactical resistance where individuals or small actors repurpose the infrastructure of a dominant platform and system, often using stealth and ingenuity to reclaim their data, self-sovereignty, or the functionality in the service of a better alternative. And case in point is this, I'm forgetting the name of the artist, but it's a group of artists, a collective actually, that were building clothing, or that were creating clothing that adapt to the hostile architecture that we find in our cities. And I think it's a perfect example of what I want to describe for the digital world. So in other words, guerrilla interoperability is a bit like the right to repair for your digital life. If they won't build it, we will, and they will be forced to accept it. I'm quite happy that a day ago or 2 days ago, Vitalik talked about something quite similar on Twitter. So this user was complaining about the fact that delivery apps have a tipping mechanism that is very much constrained and make sure that you only have very few choices. It's quite hostile towards the user, and you don't really have ways to bypass those limitations. And Vitalik was proposing that, okay, when you are interacting with apps that are really constraining your autonomy, it would be great to have maybe at the OS level a way to bypass or force those systems to have a different UI, or maybe present you with options that speak more to you and your values. So this is really what the purpose of guerrilla interoperability is, and it was a very timely example. So one last time, guerrilla interoperability, just to make sure, is really not about attacking a specific company, although a little bit. It is mostly about defending the people's right to self-sovereignty. So how do we do this? There are two parts to my talk. One is more cultural, the other is more technical. It's mainly based around advice, recommendations, etc. This is a picture of a pigeon I took in my village. I thought it represented my point quite adequately, and what we like to call a culture of revolutionary optimism. So what do we mean by that? Revolutionary optimism is really the active conviction that human agency, our capacity to act, to build, to struggle, can reshape the internet for the better. It's based on a clear understanding of the forces directed against us, and not just pretending that everything is fine or everything is already settled, we're in a fatality, it's impossible to change the internet today. No, it is. The internet is in its teenage years. Nothing is set in stone yet, so it's time to actually be more active about our will to change it. What does it mean? Some recommendations: reject the rules that you're imposed on, that have been imposed on you more often. It doesn't mean necessarily reject all the terms and conditions of every app that you're using. It's really just have that reflex of saying no. Why? Because the next thing when you say no to an app is, okay, what's the alternative? I just said no to Facebook Messenger, what's the alternative? And there you discover Signal, Session, Matrix, etc. Another is to really become an aggressive shill when it comes to new technologies that you respect, that protect the values that you abide by, and that can subvert the status quo. And finally, act publicly, collectively, and outside their rules of actions, because if you do it alone, you might scream, "I know my rights," to the police officer that stops you. If nobody is there to film or support you, good luck. Second part is really the more technical counterpositioning. There's really never been a better time for building apps that impose your rules of engagement with the internet, with the open web, and with the systems that you use. We like to call it internally peace through excessive cryptography. And it's based on a few things, including what we call the new infrastructure for those apps, which are built on open standards. I won't go over everything here. It's really just for you to take a picture, for the developers in the room to get a sense of what I mean by a new infrastructure for apps built on open standards. There are really two essential pillars. One is community computers or public blockchains. They have strict global consensus, credible neutrality, computational and data integrity. They have inter-app composability thanks to smart contracts. You don't need to ask the permission for a certain protocol to be able to use your data if you actually have just two smart contracts interacting. For those of you on Farcaster, you're very familiar with what I'm describing. You might be on your feed, but actually you are also interacting with 3 other protocols because the smart contracts are represented through some user action inside the interface of Farcaster. The other are peer-to-peer networks. Peer-to-peer networks are really what scaled the early days of the open web. Until 2010, 2009, a third of all internet traffic was just peer-to-peer. It was BitTorrent traffic. And there were some limitations to those systems, and those are now really complemented by public blockchains. But just briefly, peer-to-peer networks are scalable, they're hard to attack, they're modular, they're easy to recover, easy to join, easy to exit, and self-configurable. So all those things boil down to self-sovereignty. Next. Final slide with a lot of words, I promise. What kind of new primitives and standards can you leverage for your own privacy app, for your self-sovereignty-focused app? There is today a lot that has come out of the past 15 years of building censorship-resistant money that can be reused for also non-financial activity and applications. You have programmable accounts, objective identities. We have today scalable proving systems. We have proof-carrying data for all of you that have used the Devconnect app. You have used proof-carrying data that protects your privacy without actually compromising your security. You have portable social graphs. You have content addressing, zkTLS, etc. Now, I want to just double-click on zk-TLS because it's one of the latest primitives that I really think speaks to that concept of Guerilla Interoperability. So forcing closed systems to actually allow you to build apps that are more, that speak more to their users without necessarily either breaking their terms or conditions or getting their permission to offer their users an alternative. So zk-TLS is really a technology that creates a cryptographic bridge between private, secure interaction and a public, verifiable one. In other words, it lets us plug into a dominant platform without its permission to offer users a new service or a better alternative. One last point about that. You can really think about it as the ability to turn personal data on a centralized platform into a portable, verifiable asset, breaking the monopolistic control that enables what we described before as enshittification, and allowing competitors to build better user-centric alternatives. So, you put all that together, what you get really decentralized apps that protect as much as possible your autonomy, your privacy, and are actually quite beneficial also to your security. I won't go over everything here. It's really for people to take a picture, and also I don't have much time. But you can see the radical difference between the trust components, control components, the difficulty of exiting the system between a centralized cloud app and a decentralized app built with a stack that I described just before. What can you get with that? Quick moment of self-promotion. So Fileverse has built 2 apps that are currently available, publicly available. One is really an alternative to Google Docs. It's called ddocs.new. It looks like that. Why is it special? Really, to give you an example of how do you boil down or how do you package all the primitives I described before in order to create a good alternative. So Fileverse is open source. It is built on open standards. You can bulk import data from other platforms. You don't need to reveal your identity or create an account even to start using the app. It is built in such a way that if another app that is based on smart contracts or can read smart contracts can use Fileverse without ever asking us the permission. It is built in a way which passes a walkaway test. So if tomorrow my team and I turn evil or decided to leave the production of our apps, you'd still be able to access all your data, decrypt it, and continue even using the app by downloading the static web page from IPFS. I have 1 minute left, so I'll accelerate a little bit. We also have dsheets.new. I'll just describe one cool thing about it, just again, to shield those core primitives that we've developed all those years in the crypto space, which is you can invite, let's say, 50 people using their ENS or their email address, and when they arrive on your document, your spreadsheet, they do not need to reveal their identity. They can computer proof locally that they're part of the permission set of your document. For that, we're using the semaphore contracts by the PSC team, and it's verifiable on-chain. It preserves their identity completely, and yet it gives very similar UX to what we all use today, like Google Workspace, Notion, etc. I'll finish just with one slide. Sorry, I'm a bit over time. Use subversive apps. I like to finish usually my slides with that. The first point of action, I would say, is just start using those apps. A lot of them are built on the primitives, on the core primitives I described before. It's worth your time. I'm not saying port all your data already from Google, Microsoft, etc. to those apps, but it's important to do even the bare minimum, which is start using them, understanding why they're special, and how you can help them develop better UX. I had a video prepared, but we'll keep it for next time. If you're interested in talking more, we're at the privacy booth. If you want a floppy disk, come talk to me later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Andreas. We've got time for one question, and that is, Were the slides built on Fileverse?
So if you go on ddocs.new, you can click a button. It transforms the document into a slide as well. But it's not there yet in terms of full feature parity, but it's coming very soon. Slides, email, and much more.
OK, thank you very much. That was a really fascinating talk. Thank you so much.